wanted to go into business together. So 11 years ago, we went into business together. And when the market came into it when the market had crashed. It was '08. The market was horrible. We were too stupid to realize what we were getting ourselves into. But when the market took off, she sort of started leaning toward commercial. So Lisa runs our commercial side, and I run our residential side. Okay, we have 6 buyers agents, which Shelby is training now, and we have 3 full-time admin or part-time too. We sort of have a machine now. But what that does for a real estate agent, especially a new one, is we pay all the bills, we buy all the leads, we have all the website and backup to feed leads to a realtor, all right? Because it is hard. You can imagine with 2,500 agents out there and only 1,300 homes to sell, it's hard to even get one. So we're trying to get our own fair share. But that's a little bit about our team. It's a lot of fun. This is a crazy, crazy, crazy business. But I have never been in any other business that you can have the year-over-year gains like you can in real estate. I mean, it's one of those industries that if you get out there and you're smart and work smartly, and that you can do really well. The harder you work, the more money you can make. And a lot of industries you can't, So and you have a lot of flexibility. So you have to really be very self-motivated and driven to do this. You run into all kinds of crazy people, and you have to be the calm in the storm. That's what we like to say. I think it's interesting that there's only 2 women in this group, because right now we pretty much dominate this industry. So I'm glad y'all are here. I'm glad you guys are here. But in the investment side, I wish I had started that sooner, because everything's so expensive right now. It's hard. But Lisa and I have joined in with an investment group. We've gotten an investment group with us, and so we are buying things now and flipping them. So that's just a little side thing that we've just now gotten into. Actually, we're about to do our first house, actually. So, what we wanted to do, and I think tonight was a little bit about things that can happen, crazy stuff that can happen, and is that sort of what we were supposed to do tonight, or?
Yeah, we can do crazy stuff that happens, and also how you guys kind of protect yourself and the client when you're going through a transaction, and also when you're personally buying property, you and Lisa, what do you guys put in the contract to kind of protect yourself when you're buying? Kind of
okay, the big thing about being in Chattanooga, Tennessee is that we are 10 minutes from Georgia. So if you're going to be a Tennessee real estate agent, you have to be a Georgia real estate agent too. And the contracts are different, so you have to know what you're doing. We are very anal about our agents knowing the contracts. So like right now, we're training Shelby and Kayla, and we do not let them write a contract or submit one for a while, for months. They have to let one of us look at it. And just because these are legal binding documents, and you will get your butt sued off. You really will, in a heartbeat. So you have to know. Some people flippantly write these things and throw them out there, and it is so dangerous. It's just so dangerous. And there are a lot of hard realtors out there that's done it a long time, and they will nail you to the wall. They're just waiting on somebody to send something like that to them. So it's really very serious. These things are very serious. So even after this long, I still go to contract classes just so I know what's going on, because they change them every year. But it's, right now I can sort of fill in the blanks and know what I'm doing, but that can be dangerous too, because, I get complacent sometimes. But what I thought I would do is sort of go through the things that are typical in Tennessee, and then we can go through the things that are in Georgia and show you a little bit about what's different. We do a ton of North Georgia. We sell everything from Cleveland to Dalton. So, you know, we just, because, you know, Lookout Mountain split in half. Half of it's Georgia. A lot of neighborhoods are half Georgia, so you just really have to get the Georgia license. And that's easy when you do Tennessee's a reciprocal state. So after you get your Tennessee license, you have a year just to submit for the Georgia, and then you have to pass that test. So it's easy. It's an easy thing. But this is the big thing right here. This is what this does for you in Tennessee. This is a buyer representation agreement. The first time that a buyer screws you, then you will know to get this thing signed. Because a lot of people don't do it and wait until they know they're about to go under contract, and then they'll get them to sign. But every day you hear about an agent that they didn't get this signed, and then their buyer, who they've shown 5,000 houses to, ran into somebody in the house and let them write the contract for them, and you don't get the commission at that point. So if you don't have this signed, so this is huge. Right now, we pretty much make our agents get this signed before they put them in the car. And in today's world, you don't really ever put them in your car either. I'm old school. I like for them to be in my car so that I can talk to them, because you're selling yourself as much as you are everything else, and so I like to, you know, get to know them while I'm in the car. But I don't show property really, so so it's a little different now. But this, see, all these, and this is called Dot Loop, what we're in right now. This is an electronic contract thing. Keller Williams has this for us. And it will prompt you to fill in all these things. So that's, you know, but you can sort of see what these are. This is protecting you on, and as vague as you can be right here is the best, because you don't want a bunch of, you know, you don't want it to be so specific that you don't get paid for what you're, what you put in right there. But anyway, this is your buyer's representation agreement. It is huge. It is a big thing that you would want to get signed. And to tell you a little bit about Keller Williams, and this is a little bit different. Keller Williams is, how's the best way to explain this to y'all? Gary Keller, who owns Keller Williams, made a different kind of real estate company. He lets us own our own companies. So it's more like we're buying into the franchise. We are Chattanooga Property Shop. And so we can advertise Chattanooga Property Shop of Keller Williams Realty everywhere. So Lisa and I own our own company. Keller Williams is the brokerage, okay? So, and you'll get that, but that's a huge distinction in real estate, and you don't really get it till you get in the industry. But we own our own listings. We're every other brokerage. If you are in that brokerage and you leave, the brokerage owns the listings. So it doesn't matter how hard you work on it, you have to leave the listing with the broker. With us, if Lisa and I left, all of it would go with us. So it's a big deal when you're in the industry. And also we cap, which is great. We just pay so much to Keller Williams every year, and then we don't have to pay anywhere after we reach that amount. But to tell you a little bit about numbers in Chattanooga, guys, last year in 2019, the Chattanooga real estate market did $2.7 billion in volume. This office alone did 1.6 of it. So it's really a big deal to be in a rocking office. You know, really, it's great. But those numbers are huge when you think about it. I mean, 1.6 billion in one office is huge. So but I like it that we're number one, but then also we're in here just going at it, you know, with everybody else. But it's fun. All right, this is just, the only thing you need to know about this is, if you ever get into it, this is a huge thing that you've got to make sure you have filled out. All right, this right here is the purchase and sale agreement. This is what you make an offer on. And the things where you can really get messed up, and every one of us have had to buy things, but see this little section right here? If you don't put the refrigerator staying with it, if you forget to do that, and they think it's staying, and you didn't put it in there, you buy a refrigerator for your client. And just little things like that you don't think's that big of a deal, it will screw you in the end. I mean, this is very important right here. The second thing that you can get really messed up on See right here, this is where you're putting your amount, and this is the kinds of loans that you're gonna get. That's a whole different class. But really good real estate agents know all about different kinds of loans. And right now, the way the loan industry is, and as quickly as it's changing, it's hard to keep up with it. But if you don't know about loans, you know, that it really hurts your client. But the other section in here that is really hard and gets everybody messed up is this section. This is talking about closing costs. Do any of y'all know what closing costs are? Okay, so y'all know. The difference is that when you start in this industry, I always just heard closing costs. And what's different is title expenses, which is owner's title policy and mortgagee's policy, are different than what a bank is calling a closing cost. And it all depends on the way you write it in there. And when I first started, I would just put in there, down here on the bottom, seller to pay all buyer's closing costs. Well, it would get to the title company when you get ready to close, and they would put owner's title policy and everything in there, and they didn't mean that. So then you're buying owner's title policies. So, you know, all these kinds of things, you got to know what you're doing before you, that's why we don't let anybody submit a contract until we look over it, because I know exactly to go straight right there and see how they wrote that. That's why it's so important to know what you're doing in these contracts, because it is, because I made that mistake a ton right there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here that would be interesting for y'all to know that it's different. I'll write down here. This is the thing that's different between Georgia and Tennessee. Is inspection period. In Tennessee, you have an inspection period right here, which means when it goes under contract, typically you have 10 days after binding agreement date to get it inspected in any way that you want it inspected. And then right down here, you see something that's called a resolution period. After you send what you want to the seller to be fixed, right here is typically 3 to 4 days. You have that many days to decide if you're going to do it. In Georgia, the inspection period means all that. So if you put a 10-day inspection period in Georgia, you have 10 days for it to be binding what you're going to fix. And people get screwed up on that all the time. See, that's just a tiny little thing in Georgia and Tennessee, but it's huge, because if you don't understand that, you've missed a deadline, and then you're paying for repairs. You know, those little things are the little things that are different between Georgia and Tennessee. And after you get it, you know, but it's just, if you don't know that and you're out there by yourself, you don't have anybody to ask. The rest of this is a lot of legalese about what you'll do for them. It explains in there how they can sue you, how they can sue the brokerage, you know, all that. It's all a lot of legalese. And that is the offer document. Let me go up here. I was going to sort of wait on Lisa to tell you about the crazy stuff. Lead-based paints disclosure, it's a different kind of disclosure. If you built your house before 1977, this has to be filled out. There is lead-based paint in that house somewhere. So you just have to disclose that it could be in there. Every state has it. If you do not disclose it, you can get fined for $11,000 for every contract that you do. So that's a big deal too. Compensation agreement, this is another thing to be very wary of with some agents. It all depends. Hey, here's Lisa.
Hi,
Lisa.
my apologies.
This one right here,
How's your
you
day?
can get with an unscrupulous agent, and if they don't put in there what the correct co-op is, which what you do is in the industry, the listing agent contracts with the seller to typically pay 6%, all right? And then you contract that you'll pay half of that to the co-op agent, which is the buyer's agent. If you don't put the right co-op in the MLS, you can keep 4 and give the buyer's agent 2. So this is where you negotiate that. You can go in, and this is how you agree. If it's in, whatever's in the MLS is what you're going to get typically. But you do have some of those agents that go a little crazy and try to mess with you right here. But this is where you can get paid right here. Is how much you're going to get paid. I've sort of been going through Tennessee, Lisa.
Okay.
Which is, you know, they're not it's hard to understand all these contracts.
It
But
is.
this is interesting. They just started this in 2019, I think. There's so much wire fraud today that we have to get them to sign a wire fraud warning, because there has been so much wire fraud.
Have y'all heard about the horror stories with wire fraud?
Mhm.
Okay, so
It happened in this office.
it happened to us, not us,
Not
thank
us.
goodness. But so the hackers follow the title companies. They hack into their websites. They hack into ours. We don't know they're there. So we used to, title company would say, here's the wiring instructions, wire the funds here. So it comes on their letterhead to us. We forward it to the client. The client reads the wiring instructions, calls the bank, and they wire the funds. So when this first started happening, they were so smart. They would duplicate everything about the forms from the title company, and the email would have one digit off of the title company, and you'd never catch it. And it would come to us, and we would send it out to the client, and the client would wire.
The wire instructions have the routing number, the account numbers, and the amount. So they stole over $300,000 from a wire that they were buying a house from, and we could not get it back.
They wired it to their account
They wired it
instead
straight
of
to
the
their account.
title company account. So, I mean, we have buyers they just get furious with us because we won't email the wiring instructions anymore. And you just have to tell the story over and over and over because they don't want to take a pen and write down the wiring instructions.
So pretty much the way I handle that is just say, call me at the time and I'll walk you through it again.
Yeah.
But see, these are all the documents that you have to do, that you have to fill out in Tennessee. So see all those documents, look at Georgia. Well, it depends too with Georgia, but the ones you truly have to just fill out is this one, and all these, the difference here will tell you in just a second. But you only really have to fill out two,
You don't even have to have a disclosure in Georgia anymore.
which is a property disclosure, which the seller fills out to tell you what's wrong with the property, all right? But Georgia, that is the biggest difference in Georgia. The other difference is you can tell them about the having to fill out these
Okay.
amendments.
So, like in Tennessee, it's sort of a catch-all financing contingency. So it's within the purchase and sale agreement. You don't have to do anything else except fill that out, and your client is. Did we talk about why we do that? The contingency for financing.
No.
Okay. So a financing you normally, when you're going under contract, you have like three contingencies. You have a contingency for your financing. I can get a loan, and if I can't, I get my earnest money back. I get to get a really good inspection of your house, and if I find that which we saw yesterday, the back wall's falling off the house, I can walk away and get my earnest money back. And then it has to appraise. And if it doesn't appraise, you guys would negotiate where the seller can meet the appraisal price if it's lower. If it's above, we don't ever talk about it. We do high fives at closing. But those are the three major contingencies. And Tennessee has them all within that contract. Georgia doesn't. There is no financial contingency in the Georgia contract. So people get caught here all the time. So the younger agents will throw these contracts out there thinking that it's Tennessee, so the contingency for their loan is in there, and then something comes up in their credit score that they can't get the loan, they don't have that contingency, so they lose their earnest money if they default. So what Georgia does is they separate it by loan, like FHA. Y'all have any idea what the different loans are?
FHA is like 3.5% down, but the bank is kind of
It's a government loan, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
VA is a veteran's loan if you've served in the military.
You get 100%. You don't have to put anything down.
Yeah. USDA is a rural loan. So USDA rural areas there's a map you can go on, and they're like in Rossville, Georgia North Georgia has a bunch of them. And what are they down?
Nothing.
They're
Zero.
nothing down, right? It's a zero down loan. And so that's a great loan. So we put a lot of first-time home buyers in that, or retirees that don't have a lot of money, we put them in that. But you have to attach that exhibit to your purchase and sale agreement in the state of Georgia. And if you don't, you'll wish you had. There's conventional loan. There's even a cash exhibit that says, I can buy it. Here's the proof that I have the money. Which we're seeing a lot of cash buyers.
Right now, there is a ton.
Yeah.
A ton of cash buyers. Because right now, things are selling in hours. I don't know if you hear that or not. Literally in hours. With multiple offers. And so there's a lot of cash out there. And cash always wins.
But you want to give them a contingency too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Have you talked through any of the crazy things that happened because we didn't do this right?
I was waiting on you.
Okay. So learning about this stuff is so boring.
But it's so important.
It's so critical.
It's so boring. I mean, we know it's
we
boring.
still go to contract classes because they change every year.
That's what I told them.
Yeah, and even this little change can get you in some really deep caca. So, all right, so I have the list. We were talking today because it's kind of like childbirth. You try to forget the really bad parts. And so we've forgotten a lot of the crazy things that have happened, but we had a situation this week where an agent was basically going to get sued. And it all was because the appraisal contingency, it was a cash offer. So she wrote in the contingency for the appraisal, and they had 3 days left on it, and they were battling because that property appraised almost $100,000 under list price, and like 60 under what they were going to buy. And it was just one of those flukes that happens in appraisals, and we're hitting them. We had 3 didn't appraise last week. That is a big one. And
this is one of the little ticky things that's in these contracts. If you don't know them, will mess you up because you have so many days after that appraisal comes back to answer if you're going to meet appraisal. That's where we got.
Normally 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying time is of the essence or that's really important, you have to say on this date you will lose your earnest money. Period. So you have got, and you put it in writing, you've got to answer me. Do you want to pay over and bring cash to closing? Do you want us to keep negotiating? You can always extend that, but you have to act. And as an agent, it is your fiduciary responsibility. You'll hear that word, fiduciary, fiduciary, fiduciary. It is your responsibility to beat them in the head until they hear you. Just saying, this is important, you got to answer me quickly, can get you sued. You have to have it in writing. I told them, I tried, here's my documentation, look, it says that it ended on the 20th, and if you don't, she was going to have to pay the earnest money. But somehow, she's like a cat with 9 lives, she came out of that thing and got it back under contract. So, but that's an example. You know, $5,000 is hard to come up with today, and that's what it was going to cost. So that's an example of, we have classes here that we teach on how to lose your license and how to lose a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ways. I was taking, Shelby, where'd she go?
She's on
She
the
has
class
a
right
Zoom
now.
class. She forgot.
Oh! So we were riding around yesterday. I was showing her North Georgia because we do both Tennessee and Georgia a lot. And so I was taking her on a tour. And I said, see that house right there? I said, I lost that deal because of a mistake I made. So the guy was an attorney. I'd always dealt with just him. So when he bought the house, he bought it just him. But they added her to the title. And when it came time to sell it, I didn't check that she should have signed the contract for listing the house and selling the house to the people that I brought for them to buy it. The wife got cold feet, said, I don't want to move from Chattanooga. I want to stay here. and we're not going to sell the house. And I'm like, well, you are going to sell the house because you're under contract. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't go forward with this contract. He goes, no, it won't. She never signed the contract. And I said, well, she doesn't have to. You bought the house. He said, we put her on title. And it was recorded in the deed. So they did not have to sell their house, and my buyers did not get the house. And it was a really bad
It was horrible.
week.
It was a horrible week.
I cried over that.
You may not can tell we don't cry very often.
That was a long time ago. All right, tell them about our agent that changed the dates. I'm gonna get something to drink because y'all, I've been talking to a client for 2 hours on a tour.
All right, this is one that I didn't even think about telling them because I thought it was common sense. And she, after she got all the contracts signed, she realized one of the dates on when things were due was wrong. She went in there and erased it, put a block over it, and put a new date in it, and didn't get anybody to initial it, re-sign it, anything. So she changed the contract without telling the client she was changing it and getting their approval, and she was stupid enough to send them both to the client. And she just about got sued on that. And when we sat her down to sort of talk her through it, she had no idea that that was that big of a deal. Which I think, in our world, that's common sense. That's a big deal. You can't change anything on legal binding contract. And I mean, Lisa and I, we had to talk to attorneys. It was a mess. But we got her out of it. I can't remember how, but.
Oh, that was a bad one.
That
You think that's common sense, right? And you're like under the gun and you're thinking, all I have to do is change that by a day. Well, you just can't do it.
It's horrible.
Things that we bought because we didn't do well on the contracts that day. Diane bought a refrigerator because
I showed them on the contract where that is.
yeah. So, crazy thing, we call it screwed or glued. If it's screwed or glued, it stays. Refrigerators, unless they're sub-zeros, are neither. They roll out. And
Washer and dryer.
washer or dryer leaves. Rods are screwed and glued. Draperies are not. And y'all guys may not know, but draperies can cost, how much did it cost us?
$8,000.
$8,000 worth of drapes. So that one hurt. Then we just did that to close the deal. We really weren't at fault on that one, I don't think, but we just bought the drapes to close the deal because it was almost $1 million. So things that can get you there, if there's a refrigerator in the garage and you say refrigerator to remain, we know the 1960s green one in the garage stays, and the stainless steel with the computer on the front normally goes. So you say refrigerator currently in kitchen, or Samsung refrigerator in the kitchen. So you have to be that specific on that. And what other things? You wind up, we try not to ever be furniture brokers because, let me tell you, people get in a twit over furniture. And furniture is worth pennies on the dollar. Like, if I were to sell my sofa, and I said, I paid $1,000 for it, so I want $899 for it. I've only had it 10 years. That's the mentality of a homeowner. They think all their stuff is worth 10 times. The sofa's maybe worth $25, or it's worth somebody coming and picking it up and getting it out so you don't have to move it. But we get in a lot of fights. We try to keep furniture on a separate document, like a bill of sale. So pool tables, no one wants to move a pool table. No one wants to have a pool table. So pool tables are always a big deal because they cost a lot to move, and a lot of people don't want them because they know they cost a lot to move. Closing costs.
I sort of went over that.
Did you? How you can get stuck on that? Repair amendment, did you go through how that works?
A little bit.
So those are the hardest. When you negotiate any contract, you negotiate price, you negotiate repairs, and you negotiate appraisal. And if you can get through those hurdles, you're normally going to go to closing. But that repair amendment is where it trips you up every single time. Because people's houses are perfect, and they don't disclose anything because their house is perfect, and then you find all kinds of crazy surprises. Did you talk about buyer's agreement?
A little bit, yeah. I told him how important that was.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Because think about it, when somebody calls you don't know them, we get a lot of leads off the internet, you know, we don't know them. And the first thing you say to them is they've got to sign something to use you. They balk at that a lot. So we have a lot of scripts, and we sort of teach the agents how to get them okay to sign it, you know. But there will be some people that tell you that they're not ever going to sign it, and they don't.
And they don't.
And they don't.
Even when you're under contract with them, because a lot of times you get complacent and like you send the purchase and sale and all the supporting docs, and you just put the buyer's agreement in there to get it signed too, which is not the right way to do it. But we all do it.
And this technology has made us lazy. When we first started, this was not here. Even 10, 11 years ago, it wasn't here. And we had to go sit in front of our clients and go over every little thing.
Can you imagine?
And
I mean, think about y'all's world. Think
Yeah.
about how you live and how you've been raised and technology in your world that you had to put a piece of paper in front of somebody and make them sign it.
and
I
so,
almost won't take them if they don't email anymore.
but if they don't have an email, I'm sorry. But it also made us be better agents, probably, because we had to sit in front of them and explain every little blank, you know, because it made me do that, you know. Now, a lot of them just trust you, send them, they just start signing, you know.
They
where it
just
says
click their phone. They don't even read the document.
Yeah, it's most of them on their phone.
And I always, say, I've put this in a PDF.
Please read it.
Please read it.
But
And
they
I
don't.
mean, it was like as I'm typing it, they're signing it. You know?
But think about that. That's how much real estate's changed. When we started, we still faxed. Isn't that? I mean, we still faxed everything, and that was just 10 years ago.
I bought a house out of a book. That's how the agents carried these thick books like this, and it had all the houses, and they came out once a month
And you had to carry keys around, physical keys
to get in the doors. It's almost like commercial.
Now it's all
You still have to
Bluetooth,
do it. You should
you
see
know.
my car. Have y'all met Joe Pleva yet? Ask to see his car sometime. One time I went out to the car to get a key from him, and y'all know we love a Joe Pleva. Let me
Yeah,
tell
we
you.
love him.
But I said, hey, I need the key to the warehouse. Can you get it to me? Y'all, he started opening up ashtrays, glove boxes, consoles, and there must have been 1,000 keys in
Well,
that car.
commercial's a whole different animal too. They still write contracts on napkins.
He's like, I know it's in here somewhere. There's keys flying everywhere. And I have keys all in my car, but never. I wish I could.
That's
do
why
that.
real estate, I mean, residential is much more put together.
So on the commercial contracts, there's this kind of contract. Like there's a TAR form and a GCAR form too. So you can use just a stock commercial form. And, for small deals, they're wonderful because they've been reviewed by, 20 lawyers and they've been updated every year and they're good. But most of my clients have their attorneys write their contracts, or they want me to use somebody else's attorney's contract, which I just get it in Word document and save the ones I like and use those.
Commercial's a whole different ballgame. Where with us, I have, maybe a 15-day inspection period, and I hate 15 days. That's long. She'll have a 190-day inspection period. It makes my head want to spin off. I can't.
I'm working on a deal. Well, we closed the deal. That big warehouse on Holtzclaw? Have y'all seen that beside the cemetery? So we closed it this week. And it's going to be great condos. So if y'all are in the market
Really
for a
cool
condo,
one-bedroom condos.
y'all need to go look. They start at $185, and they are going to be so fun. And there's going to be a good upside, I believe, on that building. So that thing went under contract think my due diligence period, y'all know the difference between inspection and due diligence?
I sort of told them a little
Sort of
bit.
like in residential, it's Georgia and Tennessee.
Mhm.
In our world, we do due diligence periods. So there's so many things that we have to get done that we catch it all with due diligence. And I think my due diligence on that warehouse was, of course, we start out with 180 days. And then you have the option to buy 30 more. And then you have the option to buy 30 more. And then you have the option to buy 30 more. So I think they used all of those, and then it was COVID. And then they're like, you need to give us more time or we're not going to buy it. And then we gave them more time. So, I mean, I can't even.
I mean, think about that. The inspection period was over a year before you ever get anything.
I'm working on
It
a
is
deal
crazy.
in Fort Oglethorpe.
But they're big deals. You know, they're millions of dollars, you know.
I started the deal 2 years ago, and we couldn't get the city of Fort Oglethorpe to rezone. And we dropped it. He picked it back up. When we went under contract, the contract close date was 365 days from binding agreement day. And it was a landmine of due diligence. And you just have to, in ours, and we still hadn't closed it. So it's supposed to close in December, but you know, it's $1.8 million. So I got the buyer and the seller. I really want to make that work. So
I want her to. We'll split everything.
And so we have to get it rezoned. So they're from Atlanta. They don't know hometown politics at all. So I had to go for them before city council and get neighbors to come and, you know, enlist support to get, I mean, we work in front, on the commercial side, I'm in front of city council all the time for something.
That's a big difference. I never have to go to city council. I'll
Yeah.
go some just so I know what's going on, you know, but yeah.
And we just have to have those city connections and county connections to make anything work. So there's, over here on 20th Street, there was a piece of property, it was I think they went out 3.2, we got it for 2.85, I think. And it's gonna be like this amazing like dog park on steroids. We don't have one like this, but they have them in Durham and Raleigh, and he just opened one 3 weeks ago in Nashville. So it's like boarding, it's going to have a public park, it'll have like a social component, so you roll up these kind of doors and drink beer while your dogs are playing. It has daycare, so you can drop your dog off while you go to work. It's just really fantastic, but we had to make sure that Southside was okay with that. So we did a neighborhood meeting. You get the city councilman on board because you talk jobs and, you know, a public park in the middle of Southside's kind of cool. So Councilman Oglesby was amazingly supportive and came and met with us. And then we had to go before Hamilton County first we had to go to Form-Based Code. Have y'all ever heard about Form-Based Code?
Yeah,
There's some really good people there that could teach y'all if you haven't had anybody from Form-Based Code. They're really bright people. Form-Based Code is like a puzzle. So we had to go to Form-Based Code and meet with them like 3 times, and then we got their approval. And then it goes from there to the city. We didn't have to rezone it, but the planners have to say yay or nay because we were modifying a building. It needed a little bit of variance. And we didn't want to go 3 stories, so we wanted to go 2, and we had to go and get that approved. And then that was a long one.
I hate it. I would never do it. Our personalities we're best friends, but we're complete opposites.
I love it. I love that
I
part
love
of it.
so much.
Every time I drive by that, I know what's coming, and
Yeah,
then
that
imagine when it
part's cool.
opens. That's going to be so fun to know. Because when they came here, they were a referral to me. I didn't know them, they didn't know me. We sat down, they told me what their demographics were, who their client was going to be. So I had to run all the demographic studies for Highland Park, Southside, North Shore, to try to figure out where to best put their business so it'll be successful. And the way that we nabbed that one is I knew that block, basically there were 3 blocks right there that we could go in and they would be successful. And Chad Womack had his sign guy out there, and he was putting up a sign, and you know what a commercial sign looks like after you've built a million. Watch your people build a million of them. And I mean, I whipped that car in there, and I said, turn that sign over. Who's listing this property? We got it that day. But, I mean, before they even went on the market, we had a contract on it. So
the difference between commercial and residential is it is strictly a business deal with commercial. You know, it's bottom line. You're not dealing with a lot of emotions. It's very, black and white, whatever's the best deal. On my side of the board, it's all about emotions. We're selling somebody's house they've raised every child in, and they can still see little Susie running through the house, so I've got to always handle that emotion because I'm looking at it as a commodity on the open market, and they cannot do that. So mine's all emotional, and hers is none, probably.
no, every now and then they get emotional, but it's going to be a bad deal if that starts
What
happening.
I always like to tell any agent that starts with us is you really have to get a mindset that it doesn't matter if it's 100,000 or 2 million. It is the same thing. It's the biggest thing that person has ever bought and sold. So you've got to make the $100,000 feel just as important as the $2 million.
That's so true.
And it is just so true, and it's so hard to get new agents to understand because they see the money over here with the big ones. And but it is because that's the way we've built our business, and we're almost 70% repeat and referral. So that means they've used us before they know us. So we're proud of that, but it just takes a lot to build that, But
Every now and then I'll do, like if one of my commercial clients says, would you please just help me find a house? And I'm like, okay. And I'll do one, and then I'm like, no more for a while because it's just,
she's not used to that.
I'm just not used to how emotional it is and how everybody's so stressed out the whole time.
You really do have to be the calm in the storm. This week, it has been nuts. Everything's falling apart all over the place, and you just got to deal with it. If they ever see you getting rattled, then
That's when they
get
get rattled.
But I guess now, do y'all have any questions?
In terms of like a cash sale, so is there always just going to be appraisal no matter what?
No.
Okay, so a cash sale, you can just bypass the appraisal.
And in today's world where it's so competitive, if you present a cash with no appraisal, you usually get it.
Yeah.
It's a very good strategy if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And
if
we're
you've
fighting
got-
appraisers all the time. So if we don't have to deal with an appraisal, we're like, yes.
If you've got a good agent, they can tell you what that house is worth.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can walk in one just about anywhere, anytime, and tell you what it's going to sell for. And if I don't, I usually talk permanent listings.
Yeah, they're really good at that.
They see so many, but
But a lot of like the higher value ones, they normally want an appraisal, but not always.
yeah, I mean, the one on the Ridge that they were not getting an appraisal, it was $1 million.
$1 million. But luckily they had an inspection.
Any other questions? Y'all can ask us anything. We're open book.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, for that deal with the dog park and everything, was there any like upset with Play Wash Pint?
Well, I didn't go talk to them. They could be upset. I mean, it's
Yeah.
capital market. You can do what you want. It's free market, I should say. So, the one that should be more concerned is the one right outside, which is what is that called? The one right on 20th. It's like 2 blocks.
What
from
is
them.
it? I can't remember what it is.
So, I mean, I do think, I will tell you what happened with that. Someone called me, it wasn't them, and asked, I had been referred to them to be their realtor, and they were doing a small version of this, and I explained that it would just be a conflict of interest and backed out and said, here's why. And this is public knowledge because we had to go through everything in the city. It's not like I'm disclosing something that I shouldn't. And she did not know about what was coming, and she changed her business plan and is doing something different now because she didn't know. One of the things that Diane and I really pride ourselves on is I sit and watch city council meetings to know who's rezoning what, because you can do it online now, which makes it so great. You just go on and sign up. You go to Chattanooga.gov. If you want to know what's happening in your city, they're boring. Sometimes they're extremely entertaining, but most of the time it's boring stuff. And I just go to, when they're doing zoning and planning, I listen to that part and then I jump off. But you have to know, when that guy told me what he was building, he didn't even have to give me his demographics. I knew where he needed to be because I know this city so well. And we really, the people who come to work for us have to understand that as part of joining our team, is you have to read, you have to watch, you should drive. If you drive to school, you should drive down a different street every time you go. You should watch what is happening in your market. And I've got some Airbnbs over on MLK, and every time I go that way, I'll take a different street, in Jefferson Heights or around this way, or I'll look back around the other side of the campus, just see what's happening, what's being built. People want me to know that so that I can protect their business investment. They want her to know that so she can protect their home investment. We know where to put them.
Like, we can't say anything about schools. We can't make an opinion about a school. We can only rank them. But schools have such an influence and effect on property values. Like, look at Normal Park. If you're outside of Normal Park, your house goes down $100,000. Not so much now, but back in the day. But I can remember when Chattanooga was beginning to get popular. People started calling us just from everywhere and wanting to say they're going to move to Chattanooga, and we're going, really? But they'd heard so much about downtown Chattanooga and the North Shore that they just knew they wanted to live on the North Shore. So this was back when we still showed property, and I would put them in the car and drive them over there. And, you could tell immediately that they were expecting a manicured neighborhood. They weren't expecting urban, eclectic North Shore. And they would start going, well, that looks like a teardown.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, that sold for $300,000. And I would say, okay, we're going out to East Spring. But it was just funny. You learn to read people. We have a great class here called the DISC test class, and it's DISC. I don't know if y'all know.
Do you know what that is, DISC?
They don't teach as much as they used to. But
it is so awesome. If you ever get the opportunity to go to
every
this
human
class,
being will fall into one of those.
That's something
categories.
that we could arrange for y'all.
It is so interesting. But they teach it here to sell toward it. So you can sit and listen to a client, and just by the words they're saying, you can tell what kind of desk they are, what personality they are. And then you have to sell to that. You have to, engineers are very high C's, and so you have to, it's all bottom line, it's all, property value, all that. If you're a high I, it's all about the way you feel. I love that. If they say, I love that, or I feel this, you have to deal with the emotional part of that sale. So you really do learn how to sell to a disc. And
You mirror match.
Yeah.
So if you're, like when I'm with an engineer, it takes everything in my being to be quiet and let them process.
Because our desk is the opposite.
Big picture, like our assistant knows, she puts it in the subject line. You need to read this.
Or all of this.
Because, it's just, I don't have time for that. I'm a D. So
We're both very high D's.
yeah. And but what's really great is you learn, like immediately when I talk to somebody on the phone, I can almost immediately tell what they are. And I can pull it back and try to meet them where they are.
Mhm.
And that is, first of all, it's a great way to communicate with your family and anyone in your life.
Yeah.
But when you're in sales, it's critical that you can recognize the personality that you're dealing with. And then you match their pace, you match their, if they're more detail oriented, like an engineer, when you get to closing, they will read every document. Every document. And
it's big in any sales job, but especially in this one. But we see crazy stuff too. Like the other day, Alexis came in and I can't remember what all it was. She walked into this house. It was an investment house.
yeah, it was dark. It had a tenant in it. They say it has a tenant, and then there's only 50 people living in it.
And she walked in. One was sitting in the room completely dark and not sure if she had clothes on or not, and smoking. And then, I'm telling you, we see everything. It's crazy.
You walk in on people doing things that they should be doing in private.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
Dogs or cats.
Any other questions?
I have a good one for you before we stop talking about the animals. So I have this client, and before I go in, I get this text, and it said, okay, so there's a monkey in the house, and his cage is in the dining room, and we've got it draped, so no worries, just I wouldn't lift the drape because he can get out, and if he knows that somebody's curious, then he'll get out. I don't know about y'all, monkeys freak me out so bad. So, of course, I'm like, look, Fran, it was Fran. I said, Fran, do not open the thing over the cage. So we go in, and they also have, like where the back porch used to be, they dug it out, and it was a whole, like, mini jungle with turtles and lizards and big reptile things. And so I knew we were in for an interesting showing. So we do the downstairs, and we go by the dining room, and would you not look? I looked, right? And there's no monkey in the cage. So this was like, in Council Park, those big subdivision houses. So we had to go in every room to let her see it, thinking that at any minute there was going to be a monkey that jumped on our head. So the girl's bedroom was shut, the little girl's bedroom. And I opened that door, and a cat jumped off the bed towards the door. We never found the monkey, but I'm telling you, I almost wet my pants. It scared me so bad. And we started running backwards because, cats are fast. So, of course, I'm thinking it's a huge monkey. But that's just a day in the life. Is there something weird like that happening
all the time? All the time. Yeah.
Anything else?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I'm kind of curious when you guys are looking to buy investment property, how do you set up your earnest money and your due diligence period? You kind of have a contingent on if the house doesn't meet your standards of the inspection, like you have to put too many repairs in, you can back out within your hard days, like after your earnest money is hard.
Everything's based on your binding agreement date.
Mm-hmm.
So when I evaluate whether it's a good investment for me, if it's going to be a flip, I have a whole set of standards that I try to stay in. Or if it's going to be an Airbnb, then there's a whole another set of standards. Or a long-term rental, So you have, let's say we go under contract, and my binding agreement date is March 1st. So I have 7 to 14 days now. We're getting closer to 7 than we are 14 to inspect it. So I call a home inspector. They come out fairly quickly. I do a termite inspection, and I'm paying for all of this. It's the best $500-600 that you're going to spend to know whether you want to make that investment or not. I went and looked at one that I thought was a slam dunk. I just knew. I worked for a year. That one over in off 58. I thought for sure that we were going to just get it, but I just thought I'd get it inspected anyway. And this inspector that we deal with all the time said, he goes, I do a lot for y'all. And he goes, I'm going to tell you, this is not your house. And
And sometimes with us, we have a good contractor that does most of our stuff. And so sometimes if it's personally too, we'll
we'll pull him out there.
pull him out there and get him to look through everything.
Yeah.
Um,
And so if I decide in 7 days that it's just not, it's going to have to put too much money in it, then I back out and get my earnest money back. So getting the contractor out there, if it's going to be investment, there's going to be something wrong with it, right? So you just got to quickly get your quotes together to see, can you buy it, get it repaired, and get it back on the market if it's a flip.
Because it's got to be worth it after you put the money into it. So, that's why we like to take the contractor out there.
Yeah.
He can sort of give us an estimate of what it's going to cost.
And we deal with a lot of investors who do that. So we try to find them properties, and then they're pretty good. They don't always do inspections. A lot of them do their own inspections.
Yes.
Like the one up on that we're doing now.
When Brian's seen some
Yeah,
stuff that
he
he does.
knows. So we're hoping there's not any surprises.
Well, another thing that we've done over the years is you sort of build a team around you of support people, like inspectors and appraisers and all that, so that we know who we trust. If we tell a client to go to them, they're going to do it. And this contractor, I mean, we pretty much keep him busy doing everything.
He almost
So,
exclusively works for us.
yeah, and he also knows we're going to protect him, make him get paid as well. So
Because think about this, we had this happen last week. So you're negotiating repairs, and the buyer wants the seller to do certain things to the house, right? And it's negotiated. So we send our guy in and let him do the repairs. They hire him. They close the house. He hadn't been paid, and their mindset, they're done, right? How you gonna get the guy paid? They're like, well, I'll pay him.
Yeah.
So what Diane does, which is brilliant, is when we go to closing, if he has not received his check, we take it out of the proceeds to the seller.
it's on the HUD typically. I make it.
Or if
until
it's
it
the
gets-
buyer,
Yeah.
then we charge the buyer, and then the title company cuts him a check.
But it's why it's so important to have people like that. For instance, today I'm closing one in the morning. He had already gone out there and done the repairs. The inspector had come back out there for the sales side. The inspector had come out there, and there were 2 things that had not been done to their satisfaction. Well, I called John this morning. He went straight back out there because he knows I've got to close that house tomorrow. And they're not going to buy it if it isn't fixed.
And that is a critical component
Oh, it's huge.
to what we do.
Because if you just think about it, as busy as this market is, if I just call some random guy, he'll go, I'll be there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to have these support people around you. So, and he did. He went straight back out there and fixed it.
And we treat them the way we want to be treated. When I
Mhm.
close the deal, I want to be paid. So does he.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then talking about all this stuff, like right here, in every brokerage, there's a compliance officer. And so when you get paid your commission, it goes to Keller Williams Realty. The check is written to Keller Williams Realty, all right? So it has to go in, and the compliance officer, the 2 that work for Keller Williams, have to check off on it and say, yes, every document's in, it was all correct, everything's signed, all that before Keller Williams will cut us a check.
and
So
when
that's
it was
why it's
all
so
paper,
important.
you'd have one thing that wasn't checked, and you were just like hovering over it, going, "I could just check that. I could just check that."
It would be so
Because your
easy.
check is being held, right? You gotta get the fax machine going and fax it over. Back in the day, now we just email it over and say, "Hey, if you don't mind, you didn't check one of these boxes. Would you check?"
It's much
this one?"
easier now because of this, but yeah, there's a lot of little stuff to it, and you want to get paid.
But you
That's
live and
all
die
right.
by this.
Yeah,
So it's boring. It's so boring to learn. But it is the most critical thing that you do. So it's not fun to teach, and I know it's not a whole lot of fun for y'all to hear us teach it, but you got to learn it. And you want to go to a brokerage when you get ready to hang your license somewhere, whether it's here in another city, ask about their education. This room is busy all the time because we train at Keller Williams. We stayed in training classes for 2 years just because they were so good. And it's fun to go back and sit them in again. Now that they're on Zoom, I get to do them a whole lot more than I used to. I do occasionally when we have Steve Champion as our broker here, and he's Yoda, man.
Mm-hmm.
That guy knows the law, but he has a way with people that is just amazing to me. So he can work through some really hard negotiations.
Do y'all feel that any of you guys if you get into the business, are you leaning toward commercial? Does that seem something like y'all would want to do as commercial?
I'd say I am.
You said that earlier, yeah. Because it's
I
a
want to
different
say something
animal.
about that.
Okay.
So it's hard to start in commercial.
Yeah.
Because the deals are so long. So don't snub residential because the deals are fast, and the faster they go, the more you do. The more you do, the more you learn. The contract language is very similar. So if you can learn it faster out of the gate by doing more residential transactions while you're still learning commercial, do it. When I decided to join commercial, it was such a good old boys club. There were 3 of us in Chattanooga, 3 women.
3 women.
And it's still hard. There's a lot more of us now, but it's still hard. And I was not accepted because I came from a residential side, and they're like, oh, she's residential. She's not going to learn commercial. She's not going to invest the time that it's going to take to do it. But because I knew this so well, I slid right in. And I worked hard. And this teaches you the work ethic, how to market it, how to communicate, how to sell, how to overcome objections, how to problem solve, how to do a disc. When we started trying to teach discs to commercial agents, they're like, well, we sell the way we sell. That's the only way we sell. I was like, that's good. Then I'm going to take all those that you can't relate to and cannot communicate with, and I'm going to sell to all of them because I can mirror match them. So don't think that you can't start in residential and move to commercial or kind of learn them at the same time because you need to eat. And
Even if you get in residential, we like to say you need to have about 3 or 4 months, really 6 months worth of income put away.
saved away.
Mhm.
But in commercial, it can be a lot longer than that.
It's really hard to eat what you kill, and that's what this industry is, and so,
But that's what's so great about it.
but that also is what I said earlier, it's what's amazing about it.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's life-changing. If you can do it and you can do it well, you can change your life
Mm-hmm.
because no one caps what she and I make. We want to make more? We work harder, work smarter, hire more people.
Yep.
So, and it has Keller Williams taught us a path and a model that truly changed our lives and our families' lives because of our ability to do this for a living. So it's a great profession.
And if you get into it, don't get into it and call yourself a realtor. You're not. This isn't a job. You own a company. You own a business. It is a career. See, we got dressed. We came to the office every morning. If you look at it, it is a career and it is a business and a company, and we own a company now. Your mindset changes. It's all about the mindset that you go into it with. If you go into it that you own a company and you are a business owner, it's a whole different mindset than you're just going to run in here and be a realtor and sell a few houses.
Yeah. I mean, y'all think about it. How many businesses do y'all know that produce $50 million worth of sales? Number one. And number two, the profit margins are such that you can, just think, Gary Keller always talks to us about, like, if you own a McDonald's franchise, the profit margins are so low in that you have to churn and burn so many burgers to make it. Well, our profit margins are so high that, off of $50 million worth of real estate.
50 is what our team does. I told them how much Keller Williams did last year.
Yeah. I mean, we support families of 10 people, and, we make a lot of money. And it's weird talking to you guys about money because in Keller Williams, we'll stand up here and tell you exactly how much we make. And I know that y'all are like, well, my mom told me never talk about how much money you make. And I did too, and it still makes me a little nervous.
Yeah,
but I mean, our buyer's agents will, we want them to make $100,000 a year at least. So there are, we run a business with a P&L. We track every dollar that goes out the door in QuickBooks. Every dollar. So can you make a great living at real estate? Yeah, but you can make a fabulous career in business. And we've always looked at it as a business. Because you have to.
Yeah.
We don't have to, but you won't. You won't get there. You won't get there.
You want a big life, and be able to fund that big life. So, Gary Keller's favorite thing is he says, get your calendar out and mark off your vacation days first. And as many vacation days as you want to put on that calendar, put it on there. And then go bust your butt to make the money so that you can go on those vacations. And that's sort of our philosophy.
Yeah.
It is. It's a wonderful industry, but it's crazy. And if you're getting into it because you like to walk in pretty houses, don't do it. Because it isn't about walking in pretty houses.
We walked into that. We went in one for an investor, whatever, in Brainerd 2 or 3 months ago. Y'all, it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It was such a gorgeous house from the outside, and we were like, how did we get this one? This is so great. We're going to sell it the first day. And we unlocked that door, and I thought there was a dead body in it. I really did. I have never smelled, and y'all, I did foreclosures. I have never
She's more
smelled.
used to it than I am.
I was gagging. It was so bad. We think that he had cats, and they took the old man, and like he either passed away or they took him somewhere to a home or something, which is very sad. But no one knew there were like cats in there. It was
horrible. It was really horrible. But
so bad. So you don't see pretty ones all day, and then you get to show some really pretty ones like today. So.
Yeah.
Anything else? I hope we haven't bored you to tears.
Did you learn anything?
Absolutely.
Okay. We try to keep it a little entertaining. Because it's fun.
If you leave here not remembering anything, remember that we said it's a business and you're a business owner, and that you can make as much as you want to, but you got to work hard. And it's an amazing industry.
I think that's the
And
thing
only
that
go with
surprises.
Keller.
Yeah, and only go with Keller.
And only go with Keller.
I think that's what surprises people is how much you work to build it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can get to a point where you can have a life again, but for a long time we did not have a life.
When we started, like I said, when the market crashed, I think it was 3 or 4 years, and we sort of looked up one day and went, phew, we sort of did it, and we probably hadn't hardly taken a day off.
In 3 years, it was so hard.
It was crazy, but we do now. But
yeah. All right. So if y'all want to come back and you decide that there's other things you need to learn, we'll hook you up and get the right people in the right chairs. This is a really good place, y'all. There's a lot of knowledge in this building, and they are definitely willing to share it with you.
that's the wonderful thing about Keller Williams is we do share. But just think about those two numbers. I said at the first, what the entire Chattanooga market did and what this one office did. So.
Kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's nuts, but.
What's your age?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
They're not.
Are
y'all
all
20?
seniors.
Like 21 to 18.
Okay, all right.
Sort of hard though at that age to figure out what you really want to do.
So that means y'all are going to be graduating like soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Are y'all back in school? I don't even know. Are you in person in any class?
It's online.
Oh,
We have to ask y'all, do y'all know Professor Tomperak?
Yeah.
She works for
She's
us.
one of our buyer's agents.
She's killing it.
You talking about a red hot mess?
You talking about an agent?
Is she a red hot mess in the
Is she?
class?
Have y'all ever taken a class from her?
She's one of my favorite accounting teachers.
Oh, really?
Oh, she's a
We
red
love
hot-
her.
yeah.
But let me tell y'all, she's rocking. She came out of the gate flying.
Well, you know, she's doing full-time professor. I mean, she's a full-time professor and this full-time. But she was the
Rising Star?
Rising Star last year in Keller.
In our Keller Williams.
Mhm.
I went to school with Jody, so it's like, I'm so proud of her. But she is so much fun, and we are in awe of her talents and her knowledge base. So I always have to ask whenever I have UTC people around. So, you know, today is Give Day. Did y'all know that? At UTC? Have you had your phone on at all today? Maybe they're not asking
Well,
y'all for
maybe-
money yet.
Maybe it's just alums. It's probably just alums.
Oh my.
Yeah.
They've been talking about it for 4 days, and like, it's here today. It's like, I don't even want to pick up my phone anymore.
It's probably alums.
So,
But most of our
Yeah.
buyer's agents are, well, Shelby's the youngest, but up to 30. And then we have Jody.
then we have Jody. She's,
But,
she's amazing.
Most of it is,
They're all amazing.
yeah.
I mean, we have the smartest women in real estate working on our team. We're
And
so
we didn't
fortunate.
mean for it to be an all-women's team, but it just sort of worked out that way. We're a lot to deal with.
We trust them, man. Don't worry.
But
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
You're very
yeah, it was great.
Good luck.
Thank you.
we eat, live, and breathe this, so we like to talk about it.
We do. We do. Especially when people are thinking about
But I don't like to talk about this, so I'm sorry. This is more boring. But
Thank you
what?
guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for organizing. Oh, you're welcome. It's good to see y'all again. I've seen y'all like 2 or 3 times now.